Hello, Mississippi United Methodist. I am Bishop Jonathan Holston, and I bring you greetings from the South Carolina Annual Conference. Bishop Swanson tells me that this year's theme is apprenticeship, a double portion. And I wanted to speak with you a moment about how the South Carolina Conference's apprenticeship was pivotal in planting the seeds of the Mississippi Conference's tree of faith. During the 1799 meeting of the South Carolina Methodist Conference, before Mississippi was a state, Bishop Francis Asbury appointed the Reverend Tobias Gibson to the Natchez Mission, which covered most of what we now know as the states of Mississippi and Alabama and the western Florida Panhandle. Reverend Gibson traveled from South Carolina as a missionary that same year, becoming the first Methodist preacher in Mississippi. He preached at various settlements throughout Mississippi and proposed to receive candidates for membership in the Methodist Episcopal Church. He proceeded to explain the nature, obligations, and advantages of putting on Christ by a public profession of discipleship. At the end of Reverend Gibson's first year, he reported back to South Carolina that he had a total of 60 members. Unfortunately, 3 years later, during 1802, he realized that his health was failing due to consumption and that he needed help. His work had grown so fast that every available man was needed. Not trusting the mail service at the time, Reverend Gibson traveled to meet with Bishop Asbury and asked for more men in the field. Bishop Asbury appointed Moses Floyd to assist Reverend Gibson in the Natchez Mission. Reverend Gibson and Floyd labored together throughout the following year. Reverend Gibson's health improved, and he realized he had but one task remaining on earth: to look out for the interests of his Methodist societies and their beloved people. In 1803, he stood before his annual conference once again and begged for more assistance. Hezekiah Harriman and Abraham Amos were appointed. Later that same year, the day of life for Reverend Gibson was well spent, and the night of death was near. He preached his final sermon on New Year's Day, 1804, exactly 5 years from the date the South Carolina Methodist Conference had sent him out. During those 5 years, as a missionary to Mississippi, Reverend Gibson established 60 Methodist congregations. News of Reverend Gibson's death spread quickly from Walnut Hills, which is now Vicksburg, to the West Florida parishes. When the announcement of his passing was made at the 1805 session of the South Carolina Conference, the people were overwhelmed by grief. South Carolina soon dispatched other men who also figured largely in the Methodist work in Mississippi. The Reverend John Lane, one of those pioneers, became one of the founders of the city of Vicksburg. The Reverend John Ford left Marion, South Carolina in 1806 and built a home in Marion County, Mississippi. That became one of the early capitals of Mississippi Methodism. That home is still standing today. One historian of Mississippi Methodism refers to the South Carolina Conference as our patron and dear old mother. So you see, my friends, as you continue to live out the power of we in Mississippi through love, generosity, and justice, keep in mind that your fourth core value, apprenticeship, by way of the South Carolina Conference, was the catalyst for the formation of the Mississippi Conference. Grace and peace to you, all as you continue to work to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of Mississippi and the world.